interest rates have either held kind of steady or even moved up a little. Am I crazy? Hey there, everyone. Dave Barlow here with Sell for 1%. I am the Lone Ranger today. Everybody else is off doing business, hopefully, and not home in the bed, Rich.
Yeah, the young Barlow gang is, I don't know, maybe they're off robbing banks, or
There you
something.
go.
We don't know.
Well,
It's
I had a boss back in the day that, we had a 7:30 meeting every morning at the office, and the finish up the meeting, which always finished up about 8 o'clock or so, was sell a bunch by lunch. And so I'm hoping that the guys are out there selling a bunch by lunch.
we can only hope they'll buy lunch, right?
There you go. There you go. So, Rich, a lot of activity. I mean, it's kind of crazy with these mortgage rates and the number of different elements, that are impacting interest rates.
Right.
A week ago, the Fed said, hey, we're going to take a bigger jump than what most economists thought was going to be just a quarter basis point. They plowed into it and said, we're going to go a half a point. And everybody kind of thought, well, that's going to help move interest rates down. And from what I've seen, interest rates have either held kind of steady or even moved up a little. Am I crazy?
You are correct. That's what we've seen with mortgage rates. We have, since the September 17th announcement, we have seen mortgage rates about stay the same, slightly go up just a little bit. Again, it's more the yield on the loan has gone up than the pure rate has gone up. In other words, a bank is not making as much money on a certain rate loan, but everything is slightly up a little bit. And we had a number this morning, Dave. We had the PCE number came out at 8:30 a.m. This is the 27th of September. We're recording this. And that number is the number the Fed really looks at. They look at that as much as CPI and PPI. All of the PCE numbers were slightly weaker than expected inflation-wise, and were maybe right on target with what they expected. So that was a very good report. And you would think normally that would rally the interest rate market. But we're not seeing that this morning. We've seen the 10-year yield. I'm looking at it right now on the screen. It was 377. It's 376 right now. So we've almost no movement in the 10-year Treasury. And mortgage rates haven't come out yet this morning. But from what I'm seeing with mortgage-backed securities, they're not going to be going any lower today either. So that's kind of where the market is. And one of the things I wanted to point out to the folks is, after the crash in 2008 and 2009, and when the Fed finally decided they were going to stimulate the economy, they lowered rates. But the other thing that they did, the very important thing that they did all throughout the 2010s, up to COVID in 2020, and then throughout that 2020 and 2021 timeframe, they had something called quantitative easing.
Mm-hmm.
And what that was is that meant that the Fed was not only lowering rates, but they were buying their own treasuries and they were buying mortgage-backed securities. And so there was more liquidity in the market, and there was the active buyers of these mortgage-backed securities, which was improving the yield on these things. And that's one of the things that was driving rates down, other than the pure Fed lowering, Fed raising. They were buying their own mortgage-backed securities. They're not doing that anymore. And that is a huge element in the market that is keeping rates stuck where they are. If the Fed was buying mortgage-backed securities, we'd probably be seeing things low fives, maybe even fours. But they're not doing that. They're only letting the market dictate, and they're letting the highest bidder out there who wants to. The mortgage-backed securities, to explain, is something that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac securitize mortgages. They take, hundreds of millions in loan packages, and they sell them as a security to big investors like the pension fund of California, the Ohio Teachers Fund. Huge investors are buying these mortgage-backed securities as safe haven investments. But there are no buyers from the Fed. The Fed is not quantitative easing any longer. This is one of the things that's keeping rates higher than what everybody out there thinks they should be, because they're forgetting that part of the equation.
Well, in the, as you said, last week, Fed lowered rates. We also, afterwards get the Q&A with Jay Powell. And, the indications were that they were going to lower rates at least 2 more times this year. Right. And we've talked plenty of times here on this podcast about how things get baked into the future rates. And it would seem like to me that, when Powell says, hey, we're going to lower rates a couple more times, that we would have seen mortgage rates, come down a quarter point, right, for at least the next reduction that they have telegraphed they're going to do. Right. And some of it, I think maybe you have addressed here, but I mean, what do you think's happening on the backside that the market itself is saying, yeah, we're just going to kind of sit tight?
Yeah, I think the market's kind of yawning. They're not really buying this. I don't know whether they think it's political to some extent, or whether they just don't really, because when you listen to CNBC, it's on in the background right now. I turned it down the sound as we started to talk. But when you listen to the CNBC people talking, and they interview Fed presidents, they interview economists, and when they ask them why are you lowering rates, they really can't explain why they're lowering rates, because we've got a good economy. We allegedly we have jobs, we have inflation still above 2%. The gold standard always was the Fed would keep inflation below 2%. It's below 3, but it's not below 2. And so, when you question these people, why are you lowering rates? The inflation's still above 2%. They don't have a good answer. And so I think the market is saying, I don't know if I really buy this long term that we're going to continue to see a Fed is going to keep lowering rates. That's, I'm just an amateur here. I'm just a mortgage guy. I'm not an economist, but that's my read on it after studying and looking at these things for many years.
Well, I would say about you is that you're on the ground. Like during the foreclosure crisis, I said many, 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 many times that if the federal government actually wanted to solve the foreclosure crisis, they would talk to guys like me that's on the ground, that's doing this every day, and not, some economist who, granted, is super intelligent. They're Harvard, they're MIT, they're Stanford, they're the cream of the crop. But I have found that most of those guys are only dealing in theories. Well, if we do this, it should work
on a macro level. But they aren't in there throwing darts at the problem.
Yeah, they're not again on the ground like you are, and you're seeing it on a day-to-day basis versus sitting, in my ivory tower and pontificating that, well, according to such and such theorem, if we do this, then, this should happen. And the other thing that I have found in the past is that, and this NAR settlement thing is a prime example. You guys have made a decision, but you're playing checkers. You're not playing chess, and you're nowhere near playing 3D or 4D chess, because you're making a move that has all kinds of different implications, and you're not thinking about second move, third move, fifth move down the road. And so it's the same thing with these guys, at the top end of the government levels. Again, super smart dudes, no doubt about it, but they're making one move at a time, and then there's all these other issues. And so I'll get off my soapbox. But point
Right.
being,
Understand though.
talk to the guys here on the ground,
Right.
and like you're dealing with people day to day. I'm dealing with sellers and buyers on a day-to-day basis. I really kind of thought once rates came below 7% that we'd see a little pop in the market. We really haven't seen a big pop in the market. Interest rates right now, just above 6%, maybe below 6%, high fives to the right credit profile. Is that what you're kind of seeing?
Yeah, low sixes, 6% is kind of a mean.
Okay.
6.1. And then, if somebody has the right mix, I can get into the fives. The government loans, the FHA and VAs are pretty much in the fives, which sounds great, but there's other elements of an FHA loan that would make you not really maybe want to do an FHA if you had the choice between that and conventional, even though the rate's a little lower, because you have a PMI or mortgage insurance in that case.
Sure.
Cost that you have to account for long term or short term.
Right. So, all right. Well, I appreciate the discussion here this morning, Rich. Your contact information is here on the screen. If you're thinking about buying a home, give Rich a call. Is it 27, 28 years of experience?
So that makes me very old, Dave, but yeah, 27, I believe it is.
I'm right behind you. I'm at 26 years in the real estate business.
Yeah.
And so a lot of experience to get you from point A of thinking about buying a home or maybe even out looking at buying a home to point B, which would be sitting at the closing table with a good interest rate, good terms. There's more than just the interest rate. I mean, we talk about interest rates, but, the main thing is the experience to get you, to that closing table. There's so many things that can go left to center, and I deal with buyers and their lenders all the time, and I feel like as the listing agent representing the seller, about half the time I'm doing their jobs for them because they don't know how to get the deal done. And that's what you're paying for, in my experience. That interest rate is, helps offset Rich's expenses. A commission helps offset ours. What you're wanting is the experience of the house that you want. First of all, get you into contract at the best terms available, and then Rich kicks in and gets you the best terms on your mortgage rate. So give him a call if you got questions about that, starting the process, or even if you're deep into the process. We tell our clients all the time, get a second opinion. You might have a very good lender, but get a second opinion. The other guy who's been doing this 27 years may have a better way of getting you there. It's going to save you some money. So if you like the information here, give us a like and subscribe and ring that bell so that you get notified whenever we put out new information. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and comment below, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Dave.